Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at .com and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 here and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener. Buy our merch indeed.
Yes.
Child, wait. No.
I just said yes.
No.
What happened? It was playing?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think we bought the thing on there. Okay. If you are in the stream, this has been a mega stream. You see all these video game characters down below. That's just because we just got done an entire album of the Protomen. And the name of the album is called the Protomen. We're doing Mega Man and all that. There's Mega Man's epic fight with his brother Protoman. This is Mega Man. This is Dr. Wily.
The characters look cute, but the story is dark.
Dark as
hey,
dark indeed.
Okay, so up next on the list, the very last one of our super mega stream is TWRP Phantom Racer featuring the Protomen. Not F the Protomen, as we said in one of the previous streams.
F the Protomen?
Remember when it said F Chino? And you were like, come on.
Oh, it's all right.
No. Okay, no, don't. Here we go.
Oh.
So this is what River would like us to know. As I had one last song available to me due to my January coming up, I figured I'd include one of their more recent features on TWRP's album Together Through Time. TWRP being more of a comedy band styled after the 80s fun fact, they play with and open for the bands that YouTubers Aaron Hansen and Danny Avidan, better known as the Game Grumps, play in. Fun fact.
Huh. Okay. There you are. YouTube going into the real world. If our MC and our DJ doesn't mind, I want to keep all these guys on the screen while we listen to this.
Oh, shoot. And River wanted this called the Proto Stream.
I did. I called it the Proto Stream.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm like, I did.
You told me at the very beginning.
Oh, that's right. I
4
did.
hours ago when we began.
That's right.
Okay, and we're off.
It's a beautiful evening here as we get ready to start the race. The drivers are at the line and it looks like we're almost set. Racers, start your engines. Go!
I'm like, speed racer.
for blood.
This was the freaking 1980s, bro. 2018 they made this song.
What?
2018. Didn't this feel like the 80s to you?
Oh, absolutely.
This was like the complete essence of the freaking 80s, man. Faster, and then the I love
and the video games, it would be like racers, start your engines.
Oh yeah,
Yep. Drivers, start your engines.
Yeah, that man.
You know what? When video games, okay, when you first started experiencing video games, we had a few that we didn't get a chance to experience. That was so much fun. Because you were like stuck in this other place. You're racing cars. There's no consequences.
All day.
Yeah.
All
it was.
day.
It really was a fun feel.
Yeah, I saw a meme and it was like, it's 1999. You've got your Nintendo 64 with GoldenEye. You've got 4 Rumble Packs. You're ordering pizza. Like little did you know this was like the pinnacle of how happy you were gonna be. And like, I understood what they were saying. Obviously, you know, you have other experiences that are, but
yeah, but they're different, exciting.
It was so simple. Mm-hmm. Like those games, like there was this. It was just so simple. We had this game. It was like a track meet, and there was like it was weird. Like it was like this like carpet with like little sensory things in there, and you would run on it. And you'd run on it, and it would check how many times your feet, and that's how fast your runner would go, right? And so,
I wish I could see you doing that game as a kid. That'd be so cute.
Our friends in New Jersey, our family in New Jersey, and yeah, I was on that shit.
You must have been running so hard.
I was running hard, but my older brother, I mean, who destroyed all of us, was never a competition. And like, I guess he had the nickname like, hey, shout out to Sadie, bang, bang, gang, gang. Track and Field, I think it was called. I'm pretty sure it was called Track and Field. For sure, for sure, for sure. And yeah, I loved the hell out of that game, bro. It was such a fun game. But we literally only played it once because, you know, that was our type in Nintendo, you weirdo.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, that was it right there. Track and Field. Yeah. There it is. And then you put there is a little mat. You put the little mat on the ground, and there you go.
Babe, where's the mat? It's this?
I think it's that thing right there.
This with the dots?
Power mat. The dots. Yeah, you had to run on the dots.
Power mat. Oh.
Yeah, they called it the power mat.
How cute.
And the other thing is, like, the instruction man, everything in the 80s was like an exclamation point. Everything was exciting. It was like, power mat.
Oh yeah, the commercials and everything.
Yeah, like everything had an exclamation point. You know, it was really, really, really fun. So, Sadie, we will.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Okay, and what's your second one? We'll answer it after the thing. So yeah, it was fun, man. It was really, really cool. So. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a bunch. I enjoyed the song. It looked like Speed Racer. You know what was funny? We had James Bond Jr. and then we had Super Mario Brothers, but it was like a live action Super Mario Brothers. It was like a show / cartoon.
Okay.
So it was Mario and Luigi. Okay, and it was real life, and then when it was time for them to go, they would go down the little chute thing, and then it would turn into the cartoon. And then at the end of the show, they would go up into the thing, and they'd come back and like, whoa, what a crazy adventure, yada, yada, yada.
That's cool.
Okay, so it was that show, and then there was, the next show was James Bond Jr. James Bond Jr. And that show would go on, and right after James Bond Jr. was Speed Racer. But by the time Speed Racer came on, the bus came.
Oh.
And the bus stop was literally right outside my house. So we were able to pretty much, we'd stay by the window and we'd watch our shows until the bus came, and then we'd have to jet out of there. And I never tested. My mother was like, you know, off and see what happened if you're late for your bus, you know. Basically saying, you don't want to miss that bus,
tested
bro.
It to see what would happen?
I never tested that shit out.
You tested everything. I'm surprised you didn't test that.
What's
What's the shape of the race car that he's talking about? It's like a bullet?
Speed Racer? Yeah, he had like a bullet car, the Speed Racer. Go, Speed Racer. You never saw Speed Racer?
Well, I have the picture of a bullet car in my head.
Yeah,
I'm
look,
just not sure if it's the thing. No, I never saw that.
Racer. Yeah, there you go, right there.
No,
that's the big homie Speed
How
Racer.
fun. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope, that looks like something we wouldn't have been allowed to.
So we never got into that. I was never able to really get into that game or whatnot. But yeah. What do you give the song?
Oh God. 8.8.
This song is a 9.89 for me. Because I truly, truly loved the 80s vibe. This is another song I'm going to listen to especially the first half of it. It was like right before the chorus, the first half.
Wait, in what situation would you listen to this?
It just gives you so much energy. Going to the gym, so much energy.
Really? That's so interesting.
80s had that corny energy where you do all those weird dances with the kicks and shit.
Yeah.
And the crazy and the hammer pants and all that shit.
Yeah.
That shit was that. Thank you so much, River, for freaking walking us down memory lane with that sound. Really, really, really good. I'm going to stay back for 2 seconds, answer Sadie's couple questions, and I got to get out of here. And later on, guys, you never know. Your boy might show up for an Insomni stream. It is possible. Stranger things have occurred.
It's true.
Maybe we can watch an episode of that thing. It's only 11 o'clock.
Which thing? The one we were watching before we came in here?
No, the family show we've been watching.
Yeah. I do think we should do that.
Yeah. There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. Okay, let me see. 2 Bible questions. Do Christians really believe Abraham lived to 175? And why are there two creation stories? Do Christians really believe Abraham lived to 175? Sure. I mean, listen. If Genesis 1:1 is true, which is, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, if you have a being that is so massively powerful that he can literally speak things into existence, then on what basis would we say that it's impossible for him to have somebody live to 175?
Oh, yeah.
Secondly, if you lived in the medieval time period when it was like your average life expectancy was like some ridiculous thing like 40 or something like that, and you tell them about somebody like Betty White, for example, who just died at 99, or other people who lived to 120, they'd laugh at you. They'd say, oh, you live in a world without chicken pox, without plague, without some war, without XYZ.
Yeah.
They're all the so to me, I don't really see an issue there at all. You know, if you were to go back in time and explain to somebody that was in a medieval period, people living the 100 or 120, hell, 75, an average life expectancy of 75, that's almost twice the age that they were expected to live and die, they'd probably tell you you're crazy, and they'd probably laugh at you. As to why there are two creation stories, some people think there are three. Go ahead.
Funny story, Sadie. So you sent me that message, and then I was going to respond back to you on it, and then Vinny and I were in the sauna, and so I asked the question to him to see what his take was going to be on it, and it started this whole big conversation in the sauna between Vinny and I, and then there happened to be somebody else in the sauna at the same time that then started asking questions of Vinny. It was a very fascinating situation. I felt like we were sitting in one of those mud huts with the steam, with the guru. It was very interesting. I was like, this is all because of Sadie. Shout out to Sadie and her friend's kid. Okay, carry on.
Okay. Second question: why are there two creation stories? Actually, there's a guy by the name of John Sailhammer who I am a disciple of. Rest in peace to the homie. And his understanding of Genesis is actually, you could even say there are three creation stories. One is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Genesis 1:1. That's Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, he created the heavens and the earth. And then, on down is not a description of the rest of the world or the earth, but it's actually a description of the land of Israel. Because remember, these are ethnocentric people, and they're not necessarily worried about the world. The Israelites believed that out of all the peoples of the earth, they were a special people. And so, Genesis, in Sailhammer's mind, and I actually tend to agree with him, in Sailhammer's mind, Genesis 1:1 is a creation of the heavens and the earth, or what we call the universe. Because again, the term for heaven is not heaven singular in Hebrew. It's shemayim, which means heavens plural, which includes what we call space, the universe, and also includes, you know, what many Christians would call heaven, the abode of God or whatever. So Genesis 1:1 has God created everything in one shot. And then Genesis 1:2 says the earth was without form and void. But how many years there, or how many epochs of time there were between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, we're not told. All we're told is that the earth and the heavens were created in Genesis 1:1, and then we're told the state of the earth in Genesis 1:2, which is really interesting because if you really want to dig deep, the term "gay," the Hebrew, the Greek term "gay," G-A-Y actually, doubles as land or earth. So, for example, if in the Gospels, when it talks about the gay, it's talking about the land, the gay of Israel, the land of Israel. It's not saying the earth of Israel. Although you could say that there's earth in Israel, right? That makes sense.
Right.
Okay, so in Sailhammer's mind, I actually agree with him. Genesis 1:2 is actually talking about the creation of the specific ordering of the world around the land of Israel. And so all that's happening to create the land of Israel. Now Genesis 2 is specifically talking about the Garden of Eden. And then a person say, well, why do you have this sort of tripartite creation story? Well, actually, it's very significantly, the temple complex was a tripartite complex. You had the outer court.
When you say tripartite,
3 parts. Well, I'm talking to Sadie, so she knows.
Well, there's other people.
Well, other people. Tripartite means 3 parts in 3 parts. And so the temple complex is very interesting because the temple has the outer court, the inner court, and then the Holy of Holies. And if you look into inside the temple, the way it's described, there's stars, there's sun, there's moon, there's angels, there's rivers, all that in the temple complex, because the temple complex is supposed to reflect the cosmos, actually. And so the what you see in Genesis 1 and 2 is a replication of that tripartite temple complex. You have the heavens and the earth, which are broad, which everybody's a part of, and then you have the inner court, which is Israel, the land of Israel, and then inside of that you have the Garden of Eden, which is the Holy of Holies, which, wouldn't you know it, in temples in the ancient Near East, where would you put the images of the gods? In the holiest part of the temple. And that's where God places Adam and Eve, who are the images of God, in the temple. So and that's where, I don't know, Sadie, and I'm not trying to be condescending, I don't know if you're familiar with the theories of authorship of Genesis about the Levitical authorship versus Yahwist authorship, etc. But one of the reasons those theories came to be, or those hypotheses came to be, was because the structure of creation is clearly designed as a temple motif. As a matter of fact, even the term where Adam is told to keep and guard the garden are literally the exact same terms that the Levitical priests were given. They were given the same thing, to keep and to guard the Holy of Holies, etc., etc. And so because of that, people are saying, okay, the creation narrative is clearly trying to present the world as God's temple and Israel as the inner court, and then the Holy of Holies as the Garden of Eden. So this must have been a Levitical priest who was writing this for that reason. That's one of the strongest argument for the whole, Levitical priest versus the Yahwists and all the rest of it. So the Yahwists kind of take over in Exodus, whatever. That's a separate discussion. So that's why there are 3 actual creation stories in Genesis 1 and 2, because the author is trying to present the people of Israel as basically the centerpiece of God's dealings, right? So you have the world, then you have Israel, and then you have Jerusalem. Okay, so the Jerusalem is Garden of Eden, and the world, the earth would be Israel, and then the heavens and the earth, the general thing, would be the rest of the world. But we're really the holy centerpiece of humanity. So that's why there are multiple creation narratives in there. If you were an ancient Near Eastern person, you would immediately see, oh, they're in the Holy of Holies. They're the images of God. Oh, Adam is the first priest. And in the ancient Near East, you also had priestesses, which is very, very interesting. And so Adam and Eve are presented as the first priests and priestesses in God's holy temple, which is, the world. They were not trying to answer questions about heliocentrism versus geocentrism. I was talking to Sarai about this, where I was watching this thing from Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he talks about high tide and low tide. Yeah. And he's saying there's actually no such thing as high tide or low tide. Actually, what's happening is the moon's pulling this way, the sun's pulling this way. So there's a water bubble inside the sphere of what we call the Earth, and so all that's happening is the Earth is moving closer or farther away into that water bubble, and because of that, we're phenomenologically experiencing this as high tide and low tide. And so every meteorologist knows this. But when they talk about high tide and low tide, they're answering a very specific question that we're having, which is, when are we going to be able to pick the seashells or whatever. Right. Same thing they do with sunrise and sunset. They speak phenomenologically because we're not asking those questions.
Exactly.
So if you were to ask a meteorologist, do you actually believe that the sun rises or sets? I mean, of course not. Right. But if you were to ask them what time is sunset, they'd say 6:04, right? So one of the issues that I have with evangelicals is that they try to turn Genesis 1 into some argument for science. Those were not the questions that people were asking. The people were asking questions: who are we? Why are we separate from everybody else in the world? Why are we more important than everybody? What is our mission? Those are the questions that were being asked. And so when you ask those questions, to tell those people, actually, you're the centerpiece of God's creation, which is the point of the creation narrative. They go, well, all right. Right?
Yeah.
And so you and especially if you take a old writing of Genesis, which says they just came out of slavery, but if you take the majority report of Genesis, which is that was written during the Babylonian exile, it would still work. Because both of them, you're dealing with the people who have been beaten down sociologically. Yeah. Either you were a slave for 400 years, or all of your everything just got taken away from you. And by the way, your temple got destroyed, and now you're basically servants to the Babylonians. You're already beaten down. To read a creation narrative that says that your country is the center of God's world would obviously have psychological and sociological effects on you, especially considering they had to go back to that land and rebuild it. So that's why there are 3 actual creation accounts in Genesis 1 and 2.
Babe, do you think that there's any so when they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, there was 2 cherubims that were posted up there to make sure that they never came back in, and you just said that the garden was like the Holy of Holies. Then when they create the temple or the tabernacle, they have a Holy of Holies in there, and in there's some golden cherubs that's the mercy seat. So do you think that there was any, do you think that God was trying to give them a message at all to say that those cherubims, even though they're blocking the entrance to the garden, they're there as a mercy to you? Because to live in the fallen state forever with not having an end to reboot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would be really, really horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that the authors of the Old Testament were trying to reconcile the contradiction between God's mercy and God's justice. So I agree. I mean, remember, the Holy of Holies contained the lid of the Holy of Holies was the mercy seat, right? And when they opened it, everybody died, right? There's a whole plague. It killed 10,000
lid of the Holy of Holies?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I misunderstood. I thought that was the ark. The ark.
Yeah, sorry.
The ark?
The lid of the lid of the Ark of the Covenant was the mercy seat.
Oh, okay.
And you had the 2 cherubim.
The Holy of Holies was the room that held the ark. Correct.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
So when they opened the
Godson wants to understand if men and women were made in their image, where the story of the rib came from. Well, the Hebrew term is not rib. The Hebrew term is actually side. And so that has a lot of implications. Okay, so man and women are said to have been created in the image of Yahweh, or in the image of God, in Genesis 1:26. That's before Eve is even introduced. So before we hear the details about Adam and Eve and how they were actually created in the order in which they were created, all we're told in Genesis, if you would read Genesis 1:26, you would assume that they were both created at the same time. And there's a reason for that. The reason is, if God would have told the order of their creation and then said they were created in the image of God, men would have said, you're dependent on us.
Or we are more in God's likeness than you are.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the fact that both of them plurally are spoken of as being image bearers of God shows right from the beginning God's intention that men and women share the same dignity. Now, the side one is very important for a couple of reasons. One, Adam had to experience the fact that he needed Eve to accomplish his mission in the earth. So he's seeing all the animals and they all have a counterpart, but he doesn't have a counterpart. And so he's upset because he doesn't have a counterpart. The fact that she's taken from his side emphasizes even more that the sameness of Eve. That
from his side, not from his feet.
Not from his feet to walk under him, and as Augustine said, not from his back to walk behind him, but from his side to be beside him. That's extremely significant, actually, because when you have a king, the person at the king's side is the second in command. So Joseph sits beside Pharaoh. Jesus Christ himself is speaking of sitting beside at the right hand of God the Father. So the side or the bosom of the person in the biblical world means you're my number two. You're my person. As a matter of fact, Jesus, even though he's at the right hand of the Father, actually now rules the divine council in God's stead. That's a completely separate discussion.
You said you're my number two?
Yeah, like you, right? Like you're my number two. You're my vice regent. When I'm gone, right? You rule the roost and you run the house as if you have all the complete authority that I have. And so it's very important for Eve to be taken from Adam's side for the closeness aspect, for the sameness aspect, but also it positions her as being his right-hand man, as it were, over all creation. And it is significant, you know, this gets dangerous where, you know, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. But what is interesting is that he didn't give Adam a brother. He didn't give Adam a best friend. Right? So to me, this is massively significant because find me any ancient Near Eastern document that says that a woman is an image of the gods. Give me one.
Equally so.
Give me one.
She's not less of the image than
yeah. First of all, the term image of God was only reserved for emperors and pharaohs and things of that nature, so that they could lord it over everybody else.
Right.
Moses or whoever, the Yahwist or the Levitical author, democratizes the term image of God to all of humanity. That's a big scandal. But second to that, he also gives it to women. It says she's also one, and she's supposed to rule the world alongside of her husband. And that's why the curse is that her husband rules over her. That's not God's design. That is the curse. God never said prior to the fall that the man would rule over the woman. He never said that. And because go ahead.
And because God is such like a gigantic being, it's a weird way of putting it. It takes both male and females to reflect his image to give us a clearer picture of what God is like. So the man reflects God in a certain way and the woman reflects God in a different way, but that both of them show the nature of God.
Well, mashallah, the Lord does approve of Hot Pockets because he approves of cheese and bread. So welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. So yeah, well, look, Sadie, the rabbinical explanations could be wrong. Now, it is true that your brother, Vinny, could be wrong. But it is also true that the rabbinical explanations could be wrong. There's a reason that the oral Torah was elevated above the written Torah. That's not because they were excellent exegetes. There's no reason to elevate the oral Torah above the written Torah if they were limiting themselves only to what the text was saying in its historical critical context. So I would commend that to you. I would say that the elevation of the oral Torah is those folks telling on themselves. I'd say it that way. So there you are, dear listener. That's as much as I could give. I might be back in when it's time for the what do you call it? The Insomnia stream.
Yep.
Shout out
when
to
his number 2 falls asleep.
To the big when my number 2 falls asleep. My bump in the bed falls asleep and abandons me to the dream world, which is the real world. And there you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sorry out.